Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement plan. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis. Good morning, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. Our offices are located in beautiful, it's nice and warm this morning, downtown Olivet, Missouri. I am a 40-plus year veteran in the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined this week and every single week that she's not on a cruise ship out in the middle of nowhere.
It's been years. I haven't been on a plague ship in years.
The memories don't fade so quickly. That's all I can say. Is my oldest prodigal daughter, Erin Lapidus, who also is a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager.
We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate. Second is to deliver a reliable stream of income, one that they can count on, so they can do all the things they'd like to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches or charities, whoever it might be. Uncle Sam or the tax court's taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Babe, good morning.
Good morn.
I'm ready for action. How about you?
Let's do it.
Most fun day of the week. We really appreciate those folks that are tuning into us, whether you're listening on your radio or streaming us, whatever it might be. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. You can only tell we're live and we're local. 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And just as a reminder, all of our clients are folks that are like you. They're our listeners, every single one of them. They're 55 and older. They would like to retire or they're already retired. And as Aaron mentioned, we create a game plan for them, so with the goal of having a financially secure, hopefully fun, and worry-free retirement. Not so easy, though.
The worry-free part.
Yeah. Let's just say it.
Ouch. A lot of ouch.
The stock market this week. It's a train wreck. I mean, it felt like it was a train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
Little middle of the week bounce, and then yesterday wasn't so fun.
No, it was. Well, it was a little treacherous yesterday.
Yeah. And I think from your analysis, we basically retested the lows for the year.
Yeah, it felt a lot worse because as rapidly as the last drawdown was at the beginning of the year from November till about March before the last Fed meeting, that was pretty rapid. This was even more rapid. We saw a nice, almost a 50% retracing of that low, and now we just, within almost a week.
I like that part, the retracing.
The retracing was nice, but then within almost a week we lost all of that, and now we're back to where we were before the first Fed meeting. We still have the same issues in front of us that we had back pre-March Fed meeting. So,
no question. So, as long-term investors, which we are, especially in retirement, we're planning for our clients to be around for
Maybe longer than they were working.
Yeah, at least 30 years, or until they're Moses' age, we hope.
Of course.
We have to be invested, and we have to stay invested because we need to generate an income stream, from our portfolio to replace part of that paycheck that we gave up when we retired.
And not only that, and it's very difficult, not only as investors, but, as investment advisor representatives, to keep in perspective sometimes, which is, when you're in the middle of a correction, it seems like it's never going to end. But if we keep in mind, our planning, which was we don't anticipate that the market is going to go up and have positive returns every single year. It's over any 20-year period we know we see positive returns in the market. So in the years that were flat, which we have lived through many flat years over the last, in previous administrations, or weren't they even calling the 90s or the 2000s like the lost decade for stocks? Yeah. So there are a lot of times when we just had a recent history of these incredible returns, which makes the drawdowns more painful. But we know that if we keep all of everything that we can control, if we do control those things, we stay within that 4% rate of withdrawal. We keep individuals within their risk tolerance in terms of what they're investing. We make sure that they have enough cash set aside for short-term needs, so the next 6 months of their expenses or any capital consumption projects that they have or big trips that they want to take. We know that we can weather these storms over a long period of time. So although no one likes to look at their account balances during these times because we gave up so much of the great gains we've had over the last year, we know that eventually we hope to see the market recover and that will be no worse for the wear.
Yes, and I think you pointed out some very important things there. And maybe the most important one is in regard to cash and cash flow, in my mind.
Right.
As a part of our planning process, which isn't the same, every advisor doesn't work the same way, but we believe that expenses that we know that are going to be there, like the fact that we may need to send you income, that we've set aside 6 months of that. And that we rebalance our portfolio, not just to get us back into the risk tolerance, that is the percentage of stock to bonds to cash percentage we should be in, but making sure that cash is there.
Right.
Puts us in a position where we can really better weather these storms, as it would be. And they are a storm. It isn't something that's constant, because we know the markets go up and down, obviously, as we've seen.
Right.
So the best part is it's only it's the end of April. We've got another 8 months left in this year. Woohoo! Things will be better.
Of course they will be. Also, we know that most corrections don't last for nearly as long as the bull runs last for, which is nice.
Right. And usually it takes 3 to 4 months for markets to recover in general. So, I don't know. I was kind of hoping that after Chairman Powell got on and said, we're going to do this, we're going to do over... We're going to raise rates, and this is how much we're going to do. We're going to go over four periods of time. I'm thinking, woo, that's great. We now have a little bit of stability. Maybe we're adding into the market. And guess what? Shut up. Recovered. The market shut up, which was great. Then, obviously, there's been some other discussions. But, it's not fast enough, and it's going to be more or less. And, that's really what's added some turbulence into the market. So
right, but I think that also... It is always there, and we've heard a lot of negative news over the last week because when you see the market correct the way that it has, those are the predominant headlines. But I just saw some economic numbers come out yesterday that showed that consumer spending was still on the rise, adjusted for inflation. Because I know that everyone thinks, when the shoes cost 15% more than they did, obviously consumer spending is up. But when we adjust it for inflation, people are still spending money. Wages adjusted for inflation are up significantly, more than inflation, in fact. So although there are a lot of headwinds, there are some bright spots that give me confidence that, we're not looking at inflation. We're not looking at issues because people are losing their job or losing wages. In fact, there are more jobs available than people to fill them at this point. So hopefully over the next several months, we'll be able to see some recovery in some of the weak points.
Well, and those companies especially the technology area, which has really led us for many years in terms of significant gains. The stuff's on sale.
Well, the stuff's on sale.
Big time it's on sale.
Stuff's on sale, but as interest rates increase, those high-flying pieces of the market that have led us for the last 10 years, so it's hard to remember a time when they didn't.
Right.
They may not be the thing that leads us out of this correction, which is okay. We haven't experienced what they call rotation, moving from those growth stocks back to value stocks. We saw a flip for maybe 25 minutes a couple of years ago.
Right.
But for the last 10 years, it's been the names that everyone knows and used to love. Maybe that's not going to be the new wave of what leads us to the next highs in the market, which is okay.
It's okay. So obviously being diversified, having a prudent approach, looking at and thinking about being tactical when you're investing. That's what you pay an advisor to do. So it's all good. And again, that was kind of we had to address this morning, right?
Well, it would be remiss of us to not address such a correction on a Friday.
Yeah.
It really led to the gloom of this morning, I feel.
Well,
but we know better days are ahead. Like you said, this is potentially, if you have cash on the sidelines and you're looking to find a place, maybe you've just found everything. The NASDAQ's down 23%, so maybe you're getting things at 1/4%, deep discount here, depending upon your risk tolerance and how you're already invested. But we have a text.
Well, that's fine. I just have one closing comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's kind of like draft day.
Is it?
Yeah, at least in my mind.
Okay.
You have all the expectations, the hopes, your team getting somebody or more
filling a hole,
improving a position, whatever it would be, and so you don't know.
Got to wait for it to play out.
Exactly, and that's really what the market is. The markets play out every single day in front of us, and sometimes it feels like it's raining. Sometimes it feels like it's pouring. Some days it's bright and beautiful.
But those
sunny.
days
you
that
can't wait for those days.
Right, I was going to say, but when it starts to pour, that's when the sun eventually has to come out again. So
exactly.
If you're feeling pain, that could mean that we're close to the end, but
right.
It could mean
and
not.
It's not like we live in Seattle where it's raining.
Right.
Let's go to our text line.
Okay.
84126, by the way, if you'd like to text us.
Please. You always calm me down on these down market days. Oh, it's nice to say. Glad someone's feeling calm.
Wonderful.
I'm 67, still working with Social Security. Have $500,000 in a money market account after tax. Wow, that's a nice chunk of change.
Great.
The rest is in a Vanguard 401k.
Okay.
I'm waiting for interest rates to rise on the money market account.
As we all are.
Right. And I would say this doesn't sound like a question, more like a comment, but I don't disagree with the thought process here, which is, if you're already invested, maybe it's not the time to maybe you're not feeling ready to get reinvested. You want to see a floor on the market. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to buy into negative markets just because you feel like things are on sale. But I also like the idea of holding cash because we had a couple of texters last week talking about CDs and things like that. Well, if which we know, rates are going to rise. We don't know how rapidly the Fed will tell us next week, if it's 50 basis points or more, or how many more they're going to do the rest of the year. But we know they're going up. Why lock yourself in today? For
a year or 2 years. I mean, silly. At
the lowest possible rate because we know the rates are going up. So, I mean, that's the one thing that we do know. So. Yeah,
and I was going to say, it's interesting is, we're certainly getting calls from clients today, and they're saying, hey, I have cash.
Right.
Should I send it to you? Should I hold it? And what I've suggested to many folks is that, we're open for business. So we're happy to accept their money. At the same time, if you feel more comfortable in trying to earn a little more interest on your, we'll call it vault cash, maybe you look at a 3-month CD or 6-month CD.
Do some rolling short term.
Right. Layer it out a little bit if you want to. I wouldn't take too long of maturities because we don't think interest rates are going to go the other way. Our Chairman Powell's already told us that. So if it makes you feel good, and frankly, if you feel it's a positive mental, positive activity, good results, earning a little more interest, go for it. But It's always good to have some powder dry.
And it's going to take a few minutes, months, to see those money market accounts really start to turn around. Because even though the constant conversation is rising rates, we're talking about 0.5%.
And just to comment about this texter's information regarding their 401k, well, if they're an active participant, which I assume they are, they're still making contributions.
Every paycheck.
Exactly, and their employer is sending those in. So they're buying the good stuff, which I assume is what they're invested in, at lower cost per unit value basis.
Right, because it works in two ways. The market's rising over time, so as you are contributing over time, you're buying at discounts. But it also works when the market's falling from a high, you're buying at discounted prices again. So you have the power of dollar cost averaging over a long period of time.
I mean, the bottom line is the price today for a share of a mutual fund that you're purchasing.
Or an index fund if you're in Vanguard.
Whatever it is, you're purchasing with them, it's obviously less expensive today than it might have been 2 weeks ago when the markets were rising. So you're already buying at a discount. Woohoo!
Oh, we have my favorite market incorrection question. This is my favorite. I bet you can't even... It's one of your favorites, too.
Well, that's fine. Let me just remind everybody, our lines are open. Eric Gabrielson, our incredible producer, waiting for your calls, 931-5877, or keep texting us, 84126 on the KTRS text line.
Now to the best market incorrection question there ever was.
Okay.
Would this be a good time, while the market is down, to convert an IRA to a Roth IRA for a 70-year-old? That way, when the market rebounds, the gains will be tax-free. Well, first, just to clarify, tax-free if you meet certain qualifications. The texter meets one of those qualifications, which is they're over 59 and a half, so they could pull money from a Roth without any penalties, but also the Roth has to have been in creation, so you have had to have had at least $1 in your Roth account for 5 years in order for you to pull money tax-free. The gains tax-free from that account. So you have to meet a couple of qualifications before you get the benefit of the tax-free gains.
So instead of giving my standard response, I'm going to go the opposite way.
Oh, a little change up for the day. Let's do it.
Be positive.
Okay.
Does it make sense to do a Roth conversion today since account values are down in my IRA? The answer is maybe. If one of your primary goals is to pass on assets to your loved ones, whether they're children, grandchildren, income tax-free, a Roth conversion will help you achieve that objective. At the same time, you have to realize that you are paying taxes on the amount you're converting. So if you happen to be our previous texter, where you got a work chest of cash sitting there,
and you also have Social Security too.
Right. Now, if you were a person that wanted to maximize that contribution, what you have to do is have cash sitting on the side so that you can pay the income taxes on the conversion.
So if we did a quick example, if you wanted to convert $40,000 from your IRA to a Roth and you are in the 10% tax bracket, if you take $40,000 from your IRA and move it into the Roth, unless you have $4,000 of cash on the sidelines, you're actually only going to be moving $36,000 into the Roth account because you have to pay taxes on the movement.
Yes, that's extremely important to remember. And at the same time, I'm understanding that Uncle Sam has his hand out because you have to pay for that conversion. Putting on the real Jeff hat, okay, is the other side of this argument, which is, as you pointed out, Aaron, if your adjusted gross income is less than $90,000 as a couple married filing jointly, your effective tax rate is 10%. If you begin to make and do Roth conversions at chunks, 40, 50, 100,000, etc., you're not going to be in the 10% effective tax bracket anymore.
Right.
You also could, especially with our texter, because of his age, you could be affecting your Medicare Part B premiums.
In 2 years. So
for a 2-year period.
No, in 2 years, because there's a 2-year look back, but, right, it hits you 2 years from now, so what you did today will have an impact 2 years from now. So you got to be careful.
Sort of like being in the shower and then somebody flushes a toilet.
Well, also the other piece of this is if we just look at you have a 4% rate of when you turn 72 and you need to take distributions from your IRA account, you're pulling about 4%. It's a little bit shy of that to start.
Yes.
So you're going to put 4% on top of whatever your income is. Versus we know no matter what you pull out of the IRA, it's going to be added on top of your income, and most people aren't pulling just 4% to do these conversions because they're taking big chunks to say, I want to move as much as I can, especially if you're using the principle that the texter is, which is I want to do this while the market's down. Well, you have to theoretically act quicker because you don't know where the market's going to be.
Yes.
Meaning you have to convert more, which could bump you into a higher bracket than you would be. The other piece of this is, and I think people forget, most people are pulling about 4% anyway in order to make their lives work. We take, when we talk about how much cash flow do you need, incorporating all of that savings that you had over time in your retirement accounts, usually we're saying, well, how much are you spending minus your fixed income, Social Security, things that are coming in, what's the differential? Most people are right about saying we need to pull about 4% from their account. So you're already doing this. You're already paying taxes on it. It's already a part of your life even before you get to 72.
Very good point, honey. And part two to that answer is because of the CARES Act and the tax changes where we have an acceleration of emptying those IRA accounts. If you're wisely, and I'm using this word wisely because this is something that I feel very strongly about, if you are beginning to incorporate grandchildren, if you have them, nieces, nephews, whoever, a younger generation who is younger and in lower tax brackets, you don't need to worry about doing a Roth conversion. Uncle Sam, in my mind, has effectively
done it for you.
Thank you very much. Exactly. So that's good. I was going to say, honey, I think what we need to do, I know we've got some other texters online. We have
several text questions.
Which is fabulous, and these are extremely important, and we need to take our first break of the hour.
And we'll come right back with those answers.
And to answer your phone calls at 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line, I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
We'll be right back.
It's back by popular demand. The Cardinals Purse Giveaway returns to Busch Stadium on Saturday, May 14th when the Cardinals host the San Francisco Giants. That day, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home a Busch Stadium exclusive Cardinals purse. This navy handbag features a gold medal logo on the front and many upgraded components. That's Saturday, May 14th. The Cardinals, the Giants, and the popular Cardinals Purse Giveaway. Get your tickets at Cardinals.com.
Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. Folks go crazy for Funko Pops. And on Sunday, May 15th, when the Cardinals host the Giants, you'll go crazy for one, too. That day, 25,000 fans entering with a ticket will add the Ozzie Smith Funko Pop, exclusive to their collection, thanks to Coca-Cola and Schnucks. It's Sunday, May 15th. The Cardinals, the Giants, and Ozzie Smith Funko Pop, exclusive. Good seats remain. Get your tickets today at Cardinals.com.
1 in 5 people in St. Louis live in poverty. Mission St. Louis is a local nonprofit based in North St. Louis focused on empowering our city to thrive and eradicate poverty. They invest in job and leadership training, improving educational inequality, and enabling social and economic mobility in some of our most under-resourced neighborhoods. Together, we believe we can create lasting change. Please support them now through this Thursday, May 5th on Give STL Day to help eradicate poverty throughout our home city. To donate, visit missionstl.org/KTRS.
Come to downtown Belleville, Illinois to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Art on the Square, May 13th through the 15th. This 3-day art show is a perfect event for the whole family. There will be 95 artists lining the streets, showcasing all types of amazing works of art. There will be wine and food courts, and a children's art garden with lots of fun activities for kids of all ages. For more information, visit artonthesquare.com. Brought to you in part by the Illinois Office of Tourism and Illinois South Tourism.
Youth mental health is in crisis. It's been the leading cause of disability and poor life outcomes in young people over the past 2 years. St. Louis Counseling provides professional youth mental health services for children aged 3 through adolescents in 7 office locations and 130 schools. Mental health conditions impact the entire family. The earlier the child receives these mental health services, the greater the outcomes can be, with an improved quality of life for them at home and in school. Visit CharityWithAD.com/STL Counseling and help protect kids' mental health on their Day of Giving, May 3rd and 4th.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back. It's 9:32 here on the Big 550 KTRS Talk Radio St. Louis. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
We are willing, we're waiting, and we're wanting. I like that. To answer your questions at 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And you know, honey, I forgot to do something. I get reminded about this every
What's
time.
that?
To remind folks that if you are 55 and older,
yes,
you're within 5 years of retirement, or you'd like to retire, you can call us, come visit with us.
Have a personal coaching session with us.
And it's easy to do. All you do is give our office a call, 314-863-0008. Again, 314-863-0008. Or
you can log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a Contact Us button. If you give us your name, phone number, email address, and say, hey, I'd like a coaching session, financial or medical or both, or if you have a question, that goes right to my email, so we will get back. You'll hear from our office manager if you're looking for a meeting, an appointment rather, within 24 to 48 hours, depending upon when you send the email. And if it's a question, usually we'll get back to you within a few hours.
You're really good at that.
I enjoy answering. You know, we get a lot of really great questions.
How come I don't get them anymore?
Because someone needed to give the answers. Why are you being punished?
You know, you're stealing all the emails. You took my seat.
Why don't you just enjoy retirement?
I would if I was retired, but I'm not.
Well,
and I'm not.
Don't you think you've been running for 40 plus years? You get a little relief. I'm like the relief pitcher.
Honey, you don't have enough dough to get rid of me. I'm
not trying to get rid. Dad, I would never get rid of you. I love hanging out with you in the office. I just meant, you could have a little bit more free time. Well, enjoy the day.
I appreciate your concern.
I mean, goodness,
for your father, his mental as well as his physical, but I can still read emails.
Understood, but is everyone listening to this conversation? I'm sure all of our listeners are listening to this.
It's just us.
The man is complaining that I'm taking work off of his plate. there are complaints being lodged.
Yes.
Over me doing more work for you. Never once did you complain when I actually put my clothes into the laundry bin as a child.
Well, because
it never happened.
That was sort of like, one of those epic times in history, like the Immaculate Reception. It didn't happen that often. Or the comet went past, the 100-year comet flew past. I mean, so, honey,
It was like Halley's Comet, if I ever cleaned my room.
All I can say is I'm glad that you grew up.
Thank you.
And it's wonderful to be
had a great role model. Now, we have 2 texts.
You are your mom, so yes.
We had 2 texts that came in within moments of one another.
Beautiful.
And they are both about I-bonds. So we'll just read one of them. Love the show. Thank you very much. Can you offer your opinion on I-bonds? And then we just got I-bonds? ? 2 different people within moments.
Sure. So what are I-bonds? I-bonds are inflation-protected long-term treasury bonds. If you want to purchase them individually, they're being offered through banks, brokerage firms, $10,000 a pop.
If you're buying them individually.
Right. Or you can purchase them as through a mutual fund. There are many of those out there. We believe that I-bonds are I guess I want to use the word, they're not a core, but they're a satellite.
It could be a component of
a fixed income strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Again, what happens with these things is that the face amount of those bonds are indexed for inflation. That means, so that as interest rates go up, they're not getting beat up so bad. At one point in time, they had a very high yield because we were seeing inflation up. But guess what?
What?
That isn't the case anymore.
Not that we aren't seeing inflation up, but that we're not seeing the same yield.
Right. So what happened was the boat has kind of sailed on that. Does it make sense to have these as a core component in your portfolio? The answer is I do think so, and it's a small one, though. We're currently using these. And so I would say I hope that answers our texter's question. Did I miss anything?
Right, they're not. I don't think so. I think maybe the overarching point is they're not necessarily the solution to anything.
And they're certainly not going to be the core of a long-term fixed income investing solution either. Yes.
I think that's great. The next, this is a really good one. I am 53 years old, have about $250,000 in a retirement account.
Beautiful.
I owe $92,000 on my mortgage.
Not as beautiful.
I also am eligible for a state pension at retirement.
Nice. Once you grow up, you can get them.
Right, I was going to say, probably not quite yet. My question is, should I work on paying off my mortgage or putting more into my Roth IRA?
What a fabulous question, because of this really gets to the core of somebody that needs some advice.
Right.
They need a second opinion. Maybe they need an independent look at their situation.
Well, also they see the paths. They're just not sure which path am I to take.
This is a perfect reason why somebody should be. My answer is go see your financial advisor. If you don't have one, it's time to start looking.
And I think the reason for that is there are a lot of components into answering this question that aren't just about is it better to not have a mortgage or have more in your Roth, because we would need to see how are you able to carry the mortgage now? Are you able to carry it in retirement without having a huge impact on the rest of your needs? It also, and I like to say this to clients very frequently, is all of these things don't have to be an all or nothing proposition. You don't have to say, oh, I'm only going to pay the minimum payment on my mortgage and I'm going to maximize the Roth, or I'm going to pay, since this texture's over 50, I'm going to put $7,000 into the mortgage and nothing into the Roth. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. So, having a strategy to possibly achieve both is something that could be discussed during a coaching session.
So let's have a little fun with this if we can. So the question is, should I put money into my Roth or should I pay down my mortgage?
Mm-hmm.
I would say that intuitively, I believe that the mortgage should be paid off.
Right, because it's savings before investing.
Right, exactly. Let's think about this. Let's just say that at the time of retirement,
mm-hmm.
which in this person's case could be 5, 6, 8 years.
Based on the fact that they're 53.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that their pension, let's say that their mortgage balance is $75,000.
When we get to retirement. So we went
Yes.
from 92 to 75.
So,
okay.
And let's also assume for a moment that their mortgage payment is $1,000 a month.
Okay.
Not including taxes and insurance. Now, obviously,
because that's going to be perpetual regardless of if you've paid it off or not.
And certainly you're making the point before, honey, which is very good, is the details here are really going to drive our recommendations. But let's just say it's $1,000 a month.
So $12,000 a year.
We know that if we assume that a portion of this person's assets in retirement are being used to
make this payment, we
use a 4% rule. That means that this client would need to have basically $300,000 of assets, which are dedicated using a 4% withdrawal rate, to make that payment.
But they only owe $75,000.
So the answer is kill it.
Also, and just to piggyback off of this, which is something new that I learned working with another couple just a couple of weeks ago, is that everyone knows that as you're paying your mortgage down, the payment doesn't change. You started out with a $300,000 mortgage, is now down to $92,000. You're still making the same payment every month.
Right.
Now, there are ways to bring your payment down. You could refinance, but that doesn't sound very palatable at the moment because rates are rising pretty rapidly in the mortgage area.
Yes.
There is something that is called reforecasting. And some banks allow for it. Some banks charge for it, so you don't want to do this constantly. But what they do is they say, we will amortize your new mortgage balance over the remaining period. So let's say you started with a 30-year mortgage, you're down to 10. Well, you only have, you have $60,000 left on the mortgage. They'll amortize the $60,000 over the remaining number of years, and you don't change your interest rate. Some banks charge for this service $200 to $300. Some might not charge at all, but they can bring your payment down.
Well, sure, and what they're doing is they're also charging you interest on a portion of that note, and
right.
So what's happening is in many cases when folks get down to these lower numbers,
they can't itemize anymore.
Right, and actually they're really down to principal.
Mm-hmm.
So, a second question that we often are asked, and the people that ask these questions are smart.
Right.
Intuitively, they're getting these messages like, it'd be nice to have grandchildren someday, but not necessarily.
I'm sorry,
that
whose
one.
message was that? That's not part of.
I'm getting it
what?
from higher places, but honey,
higher place.
Yes, exactly. So you're thinking to yourself, I'd like to get rid of this obligation, right?
Right.
Does it make sense to do? And the answer is it does make sense to do so. And doing it, how can we do it most effectively?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's lots of ways of getting. The truth is there's lots of ways of getting from here to there. We talked about this. If I'm yanking money out of a retirement account,
you're paying taxes,
and also if I'm Medicare eligible, it could affect my Medicare Part B premiums a couple of years from now.
Sure.
It also could create a situation where I'm paying more effective tax rate, which I don't want to do.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if we get rid of this obligation, we help this client get rid of this obligation.
Right.
We've reduced their outflows. Does that put them in a very different position in regard to their inflows?
Well, if we went back to the fictitious fact situation that we used based on our texter asking about paying down the mortgage or putting money towards the Roth, we essentially freed up $300,000 of their capital, or we were able to work the equation from both sides, which is as we decrease the outflows, either that makes your assets more valuable, or it just means you need less assets in order to retire, because like we talk about, not everyone needs a certain dollar amount, like much of the literature says, you need at least $1 million in order to retire. Well, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case depending upon the size of your life. And we talk about the size of your life. It's literally how much are you spending every month.
And I think that, and I've said this many times, and I know you've done this as well. We say this to clients and also folks all of our prospective, clients that are listening today. It's easier to reduce expenses, outflows, than it is to grow capital.
Also, there's a certainty to that. We
Right.
know for certain that if you pay off an obligation, you no longer have that obligation.
Right.
There are factors in the market and in the growth of capital that we cannot control.
Yes. And so in this particular texter's case, why put it into a Roth after tax? It's growing tax-free. That's great, but you're going to rip it out, and it has to sit there, in theory, for at least 5 years if you didn't have a Roth already in existence.
And doesn't have access to it at this moment because they're only 53.
Right. And they would have to wait till they're 59 and a half without having a penalty.
Right.
So I would suggest probably a better solution, thought process might be just increase your mortgage payments that you have today. Just increase what you're paying to the mortgage for that Roth contribution. And even further, we've seen folks that we visited with in the past that are at not necessarily at this age, but usually a little bit older, maybe 62, 63, 58, etc., where they've been such great savers and investors through their retirement accounts, through their employers' matches, through after-tax investing, that they already had a big enough nest egg to retire. And in some cases, we've even said, you know what, quit making retirement plan contributions. You don't need to do that. Let's get rid of this debt outflow. And guess what? Your inflows become more valuable because you're in a great place.
We just take a step back, which is if you're contributing to a retirement plan, you're already saving for your retirement.
Yes.
Some people have the ability to save above and beyond that, either in after-tax investing or using other vehicles, depending upon their income and the limitations they're in, so Roth or additional IRAs. But another way to save, essentially, what we're talking about in retirement is to not spend. So how do we not spend is if we get those obligations off the books before we get to retirement.
This is a war game. I mean, truly, that's what it is. It's a game. Taxes, accumulating money, income to do the things we want to do, family issues, etc. How do we fill up faucets, fill up jars, buckets of etc.? What faucets do we turn off at various times? That's really what a game plan is all about.
Right.
And I would certainly say to our texter, if you have an advisor today, you've got a really good reason to go back and visit him or her and have this discussion. And if you're not having this discussion, I believe for you, and frankly anybody that's out there, you should be having these discussions with a professional. Get a second opinion. Because this isn't, what's the nicest way to put it? This isn't a buy something decision.
No.
This is strictly truly a financial planning, a logical decision-making process.
But there's nothing to sell this texture in this
That's
question.
Right.
It's all about what's going to be the best, what's going to get us to where we want to go the best way we can. And
I guess, for those that have financial advisors, my question would be, are these the things that you're talking about with them? And if not, why aren't you? Are they not? Do they not have the skill set?
Did you not even think about?
Have you not approached them?
Right.
If you haven't approached them, maybe you're not comfortable because you don't think they have the skill set, or you've had experience that tells you that.
Or maybe you're not using your advisor to the fullest extent of their capabilities. Maybe you're only utilizing them as an investment advisor representative versus their other skills. Or it's time to say maybe we need to move on to someone that has a larger tool set.
These are critical decisions that you're making. You're making them in the moment. So having someone that you're working with that really has a good picture of your overall finances and what is the path that you've already created and the one that you're following, and, hey, does it make sense to create a new path or stay on the same path, etc., is extremely important. And I think where it's really the most important is peace of mind. When you're driving down the highway, you don't do it at night. You don't do it with your lights off. You want to see what's in front of you. You want to see the traffic. You want to see how the road bends. You want to see if there's an accident. Having more information, getting constructive input, creates clarity. And clarity, in my mind, is confidence and comfort. And, we're getting calls every day from folks, from our existing clients, about these types of issues. I have to tell you, this
is the enjoyable part of it.
It's so funny, they thank us even though they're paying us, okay? which is wonderful. We always, you thank you, doctor. Thanks, doc, for seeing me. Well, I paid you, by the way. But as Aaron said, this is the fun. I mean, being on the journey, being sought out for advice, giving what we hope is prudent ideas, helping them expand,
and then also seeing
their mindset.
That's what it's seeing those things enacted, like watching someone pay off their mortgage, things like that is really, it's really exciting because you get to see people live out what their goals and their dreams are right in front of you. Really,
people make the best decisions when they have more information and good information, and it's very difficult to make decisions when you don't have all the information.
Facts.
You don't have all the facts. You don't have all the information that you need. So this is a great time to visit with an advisor. It's also a great time
for another break.
There you go. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Don't you dare touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Attention homeowners, if you're selling, I'm buying. This is Mike Robinson, Robank Properties, and I'm not like the other people you hear on the radio. They make offers loaded with contingencies like, I think I need my partner to see it, or we will need an inspection, or whatever. I call that monkey business. You want an offer straight up? Call me, Mike Robinson, Robank Properties, 314-283-0867. That's Robank Properties, 314-283-0867. 314-283-0867, or visit us online at robankproperties.com.
Need to know more? Take it from Nancy of Maplewood.
The whole process was stress-free and with no unexpected surprises. Mike went above and beyond to make sure the entire experience went very smoothly. I highly recommend Robank Properties.
Or how about Larry in St. Louis County?
Selling our home to Mike was accomplished quickly and professionally. The whole process allowed us to move and not have to hassle with listing our property for a long time and getting everything done to close our new home.
Robank Properties, 314-283-0867.
Drug and alcohol abuse are reaching epidemic proportions, and it's easy to hear the numbers and forget all about the person. The Salvation Army Rehab Center provides men with the chance to recover through spiritual guidance, counseling, work therapy, and life skills. You can help by shopping at the Salvation Army thrift stores or donating gently used items. Just call 314-535-0057 for free pickup, or go online to satruck.org for more information.
Baseball season is here, and the perfect place to watch the game is high atop the Hilton St. Louis at 360. 360 offers you a bird's eye view of the cards while enjoying your favorite ice-cold libation and tasty treat, featuring inventive takes on sliders, fish tacos, pizzas, and more. So before, during, or after the downtown baseball game, you've got to be with the in-crowd at 360 atop the Hilton at the ballpark. 360-stl.com.
This is Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back for the last 6 minutes and a few seconds of this hour. We'll be back, obviously, for another hour, full hour, the hour of power on Straight Talk and Retirement. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Father of the other retirement coach. My favorite thing. Being dad.
Aw.
That's right.
Favorite thing.
So we are our text line is open. We'd love to hear from you, 84126, or phone's been a little quiet this morning, 931-5877, 931-KTRS.
Since we spent the last part of the segment talking about questions that you should, be having with your, or conversations you should be having with your advisor, rather. I thought maybe it might be a good time, or that you aren't having with your advisor.
Yes.
It might be a good time to talk about the 5 most important questions that you might ask an advisor while you're either interviewing them, because you're looking for an advisor, or maybe you've gone back to your current advisor and you'd like to re-interview them because you heard some things on the show and you thought maybe these are things I should be talking to my advisor about.
Very good, honey. I would say, question number 1 that I would ask folks is, a new advisor, is, how are you licensed?
Because that's going to lead you that's going to give you a couple of pieces of information. It's going to tell you what they're able to offer you. It's also going to tell you the scope of their licensing and their expertise.
Well, and more importantly, how they get paid.
That's another important piece.
Are they paid by commissions? Are they paid by fees for assets under management? Do they offer non-financial products like insurance products?
Mm-hmm.
And which would be not necessarily limited to Medicare, supplements, long-term care, etc., life insurance, right?
Right.
So, and then I guess that would also lead to is, how much do you charge if you are a fee-based advisor?
Exactly. Or, how do your commissions work, and what if you're working on a commission, is this a transactional relationship in which we're only going to talk when there's something to buy, or do you have a la carte services? How does that work versus, in our firm, because we are able to charge fees, we feel that all of the questions, game planning, conversations that we have are all included in the fee that we charge, which is 1% annually.
Which is really related to assets under management, and that's important.
Right.
So, with that said, you're charging me a fee.
What do I get for my fee?
Right, and how often am I, and how will you plan to communicate with me?
Right, and I think this is part of setting up expectations, which is, if you are someone that doesn't use email, and we have plenty of clients in our practice that don't use email, well, our monthly newsletter, we make sure that goes out by mail. If we send an email out to the clients to discuss what's going on in the market or any updates, usually that means that we're also putting those things in the mail. So it's important that you let your new or potential advisor know how you'd prefer to be communicated with, because you don't want to start off the relationship at cross purposes.
Yes, and then finally, when we're talking about clients, I would also say is, how would you describe what your ideal client is?
And I think this is going to lead to, what is their expertise? What do they spend the majority of their time doing? If they're only working with individuals in retirement, so in that distribution phase of their life, that means that that's what they're focused on. Versus, are you working with someone that only works with people that are in the accumulation phase?
I think that's one side of it, honey, but there's also the other side, which is, I like this, and I have 4 criteria that we both do.
Mm-hmm.
Someone has to be nice.
Nice.
And we know if you're nice, because you're someone that has to be happy with who they are and really the relationships they have with family and other members.
And that's because we want a relationship with you for the next 30-plus years.
We know it's going to be fun, so we want fun people.
That's right. For long periods of time.
Right. And secondarily, it's also folks that are ready to accept professional advice and actually put it into action. Some folks are like advice, but they're not ready to put it into action. Third is that they care more about someone or something than money. They're caring about other folks. And finally, they're delegators.
Right.
They want to delegate the function of investment. They don't want to collaborate. They're not do-it-yourselfers. They're actually what we call delegators.
And that's really because you are paying us a fee.
Right.
So we'd like to be able to earn that fee by doing the work.
And we also do, you do give us the discretion to make those changes in your account.
And you're asking us to take the responsibility of making sure that we're delivering the cash when you need it.
And I think what's interesting here is that now that we've kind of talked about who our ideal client is, people know.
That's right.
They say, hey, am I really a delegator? Am I really willing? Am I in a position where I want professional advice? And am I actually in a place that I can go and I'm willing to implement. Some
Right.
people aren't ready.
Absolutely.
When you're ready, that's a very good thing. And more importantly, if you're ready for a coaching session, just give us a call, 314-863-0008. Again, 314-863-0008. We'll be right back after these messages.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
That's right. It's 10:05. We're back here on the Big 550 KTRS for our second hour of Straight Talk on Retirement. We closed the last hour by talking a little bit about what are some questions that maybe we think that are important that you might want to ask your advisor or even a newer prospective advisor. And they really included how would they describe their ideal client? How are they licensed? How do they get paid? How are you going to communicate with me? Another one is, what is your investment strategy during a market downturn?
What a timely question.
Well, it's important.
Of course.
We don't attempt to time the market.
No.
But at the same time, the way that I like to describe it is potholes or craters.
Mm.
We think that it's important. We know that all of our clients are long-term investors. If they weren't long-term investors, they'd be sitting in cash.
Right.
So we know that for the folks that come to visit with us, they're all 55 and older. They're our listeners. They're you. 5 years of retirement, getting ready to retire. They need to replace, in most cases, a part of their income stream that they had when they were working, so they can live the life that they want to have in retirement, maybe a more fun one, but after they retire. I like to describe it as potholes or craters. I think that it's our job to, if we can, communicate with our clients, let them know our thinkings about whether we're seeing potholes. And unfortunately, I think during this current market downturn, and I want to say temporary downturn, because I don't think it's going to be permanent. I don't know, but I don't think.
Well, history has shown us that they're not permanent.
It's up and to the right. I mean, the markets are going to continue to move up. It's a matter of time. There are potholes. The Federal Reserve, how soon will they raise interest rates? How often will they do it? What will be the effect? Those are potholes. There are also craters. The pandemic, the financial crisis. You don't know about it, in theory, until you get there. But we need to help, and again, we do have discretion with our clients, so we need to make the financial decisions on the direction, because that's what they pay us to do.
Sure.
So,
but there's also a lot more that goes into these decisions than is it time to go fully to cash or is it time to adjust the portfolios. For example, we've had dozens of questions over the last several months about I-bonds, like where do those things fit into a portfolio? Where is the timing of that? What's the mix between value stocks, value equities, and growth equities? So these decisions aren't necessarily entirely based on is it time to completely pull out, which usually that's not our objective.
No. I mean, the answer is no. You shouldn't be out.
Right.
The problem isn't getting out.
It's definitely getting back in.
It's getting back in. That's right.
Oh, we just have.
If you're waiting for somebody to wave a big flag and say, oh, time to get in again, you already missed it.
Also, there's a million billion reasons to stay out. Like, you can find endless reasons not to jump back in. But, the thing that I always remember, I've had the opportunity to learn some things over the last several years. And I thought that the pandemic was an incredible learning experience for me, which was we watched the market just crater. Then, as news started to come out, and it was awful news, hundreds of thousands of people on unemployment every month, those numbers kept rising. Demand gone. The market was rising. Every single time jobs numbers came out, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be.
Because the market is forward-looking.
Right. And so that's something to keep in mind, when we're in dreary times. Well, the market probably, the reason we're down is because the times are dreary. Now we're looking to the next phase of things.
Yes, and actually the market is also maybe the purest sense, whatever, the purest value of showing of really what democracy is.
Sure.
Because,
people get to choose.
Exactly. They're making choices every day. And since it's based on expectations, sometimes you're in a bad mood.
Right. Markets, investor sentiment, not high.
And then sometimes it's, woo.
Well, speaking of ideal clients, we just got a very nice text. Good morning from Kentucky Lake.
Oh.
We're listening in this morning, enjoying the show. We do know who this is. Of course, we won't mention whom. But, when I think about our ideal clients or, really the process of having someone join us or decide that they'd like to work with us, because it's really a mutual agreement. We're going to be in this relationship together. Our Kentucky Lake listeners are just a perfect example of that. They came to us with time to retire.
Really, within about 3 years.
Well, so we thought, but
right.
Some people have more tread left on their tires than their wives would like, and it might be extending out. Right, might be extending out their retirement plans. But
are you referring to the less husband, more money theory?
Correct. However.
Or
the
other way.
More husband, less money.
Thank you.
Some wives really are striving for that. Husbands are not prepared for it. I don't know, but just thinking about the experience of having them join us and all the steps that they took to get them to Kentucky Lake is really just a great example of clients that were ready to accept advice, ready to implement the advice, and really move down the path towards their goals. And it's so cool to see that they were able, in even a shorter amount of time than we had anticipated, were able to really achieve a lot of their goals.
And in their particular situation, as with many folks, we're dealing with how do we eliminate debt obligations, clear the road so that our cash flows are more valuable than otherwise. And similar to the text question we received earlier today, do I pay off that mortgage or not? How do I create enough capital so that down the road, 2-3 years, we can buy that home or make that deposit, make that down payment at Kentucky Lake so we can do the things that we want to do? Or maybe it's the other things like, well, I need to help my children or grandchildren. One of my favorite words, grandchildren, is to do that, and they may need funds to help them go to school. Maybe deal with medical issues, or even helping kids get through rough spots.
Sure.
It's fun. I mean, it's fun. I mean, being engaged, being permitted to get in the back seat and be on the ride is an honor for us. I mean, it's fun, but it's an honor to do that.
It is.
And this isn't, for us, this isn't a brokerage thing. This isn't about selling things. What it really is, we get paid by managing client assets.
Sure.
And we appreciate their support. We also appreciate that their confidence in us. But being there to help them answer those questions and really being the enablers to help them reach those goals. And frankly, whether it's a new kitchen, and we have a deal with those folks that ask us for funds like that.
We have to see pictures.
We have to see pictures. I mean,
or you can't have your own money back. Sorry.
Exactly. Or a client of ours that they bought that dream vehicle, and it's, well, you better
got to drive it over to your next appointment.
Exactly.
So we get to check it out. Now, in reference to the more husbands, less money.
Yes.
I did receive a text from Mom.
Your mother.
My mother, yes. Your wife.
Okay.
Same person.
She's listening.
Dad can work as long as he wants. Which is fine by me because I love having more dad, less money.
I think your mom was not really being as truthful on this as she could have been. She could have said, Dad works as long as I want.
That is a more reasonable, and just to add insult to injury, we have a great text question.
Woo-hoo.
How quick?
84126, if you'd like to enter the conversation, we obviously would love for you to do that, or 931-5877.
This is just really going to get to the heart of the matter here. How quickly should we a new granddaughter as a beneficiary to the will, to the Roth, to whatever?
Okay.
How quickly? The granddaughter, how quickly?
Or the rhetorical question is, why are your children waiting? Okay.
It's really cute.
You're welcome, honey. You're a great straight man. I do appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
You probably, based on the changes in the tax law recently, you probably shouldn't wait. And I guess this really could dovetail us into one of the conversations we're going to have if you want us to do that.
Well, we have several more text questions to get to.
So we're going to answer that one, by the way. Go ahead.
Let's answer that one.
That one specifically?
Yeah. How quickly should we add the granddaughter?
Well,
the next generation, how quickly?
Well, I think that this really ought to be done immediately. Let's take an example. We have Joe and Sally that are from South County. They came to visit us,
mm-hmm.
and they're both in their early 70s,
mm-hmm.
and they really were interested in creating that wealth transfer plan when they were both gone. They have 2 children and they have 4 grandchildren.
Oh my gosh! Everyone has grandchildren.
And folks are asking, Jeff, are you hating on me for? And the answer
Some of the clients won't even come see him; they come to me, so they don't have to admit they have grandchildren now.
The answer is yes, okay.
But only out of sheer jealousy,
exactly,
and joy for you.
And our clients know that I'm hopeful that my children will be in a position to do this, but if not, we're buying them. I mean,
well, we probably shouldn't say that on the radio.
Okay.
So Joe and Sally, in their 70s, they have about $2.4 million of IRA assets and about $620,000 of non-retirement assets. So this is I think this will be a good example to answer the texter's question about how soon and how you might add a grandchild as a beneficiary.
It's interesting because, I realized about 20 months ago, and I tell clients it was in the shower because I'm a shower thinker,
mm-hmm.
that my children are not going to, under normal circumstances, really look at inheriting money from my wife and I until they're my age.
That's a long time.
For you, it seems like it's almost forever. But double your lifetime at this moment.
Right.
So, and at that time, they should be at the peak of their careers, and hopefully they're earning, getting ready to retire, etc. But their children, my grandchildren, are probably going to be in their 20s, 30s, and broke. So if I'm really interested in effectively transferring my wealth, what I would want to do is include them as beneficiaries. And so I think the answer to the question here is I wouldn't wait. I would do it right away. Because if for some reason if you have a spouse or texter or in a common accident, that money's going to go to those kids. And I'm playful about this, and clients laugh, but I love my daughters beyond life, but I don't want them to be making the decision about when they're going to give my grandchildren money, or more importantly, for my grandchildren to wait until they're my age before their parents pass away and they get my money.
I mean, isn't there something to time served? I mean, my sister and I have been with you and Mom for 30 plus years. We don't even have children yet. They have no time served. When we get compensated for our service.
There's no rental agreements here. The answer is no. You've been enjoying it up till now. But again, I think at this moment, well, I've certainly enjoyed it. So, at this moment, what we're really thinking about is that if we, those kids should be in lower income tax brackets.
Right. Those grandkids would be in lower income tax brackets.
They're going to have to withdraw this money within 10 years. And if we're looking at, Dawn and Sally.
Joe and Sally.
They have 2 kids. I mean, $2.4 million of IRA assets, assuming they were equally spread, that's $1.2 million each.
That's over $100,000 a year to distribute.
If they did it evenly,
right,
that's Medicare Part B destruction. And forget about the fact that if they're doing very well,
you're already, even if you had zero income, you're now already in the 20+% tax bracket with just that money.
And in theory, this could take them into the 30+% bracket as compared to their children, the little darlings that are broke. So,
but also, how cool would it be? I mean, we're joking about the tax consequences, but how cool would it be to know that Grandma and Grandpa help secure their grandchildren's retirement?
Well, that's what it's all about, which is being in a position where, and as I've said to folks, 40 years ago plus, when I went into practice with my father, we were life insurance agents. We were always talking about planning for the next generation, passing assets on. We never had these conversations, and the reason is that no one had money.
Well, you had pension and you had Social Security, and that probably totaled what you were earning, and so you didn't have to create any additional savings.
Well, there was no Roth. Roth and IRAs and 401ks really didn't come into vogue until the 90s. So most of us, baby boomer generation, had about half of our careers where we could put money away. Mm-hmm. But our children and future generations, unless they work for a governmental unit or an educational institution, they're not going to have pensions. They're going to have to create that wealth. They're going to become, all of them, literally the millionaires next door.
And I think we may have skipped over a little bit when we were discussing Joe and Sally's asset distribution, because there is a way to, we would call it estate equalization, I guess, between your children and your grandchildren. We talked about the $2.4 million of IRA assets because those are fully taxable, and then the other assets at about $620,000. Well, wouldn't it make sense, because we're talking about the differential in tax brackets here, to try and pass on as much of your after-tax assets to your children, who will theoretically get a step-up in basis of your after-tax accounts plus the value of your home, and then leave those taxable assets to the grandchildren,
or a portion
of them, that will, one, reduce the taxation on everything because the grandchildren are a lower tax bracket, and two, more of your assets are going to be passed on without tax.
Yeah, and the way that that we like to describe this is, just imagine having either a 2 or a 3 layer cake.
Right.
One layer, let's say the bottom layer, are those taxable traditional IRA 401k assets. The second layer might be your non-retirement assets, your home, brokerage accounts, collectibles, farmland, whatever it would be. And the third layer, if you have it, would be Roth.
Which would be, still has to be distributed, but also not taxable.
Right. And so, as Aaron was alluding to, leaving those step-up basis, tax-free, basically, assets and the Roth assets to a greater proportion makes a lot of sense.
To the older generation.
But I'll be willing to bet, only because it's been 100% certainty up to this point, is that your documents, your wills, your trusts all say proportional to X number of people. So everybody's getting
a vertical slice of the cake, like you're cutting it like you normally would. If you have 3 children, you divide the cake into thirds, and each child gets a third of each layer, versus maybe we think about each layer individually, and the grandchildren get a chunk of that bottom layer. Big scoop, so you're cutting it horizontally, essentially.
Right.
And then the children get much larger chunks of those top 2 layers, and it either equals out, or you still may decide that you like your children. You might leave them a little bit more. They get a bigger chunk, but they have less taxes to pay on that chunk, meaning everyone theoretically gets more because less goes to the government.
Yes, I would agree. And obviously those children play a large part in creating those grandchildren, which,
is also something that should be compensated
fully. Absolutely. But again, if we're really talking about transfer of wealth, why would you wait? And we're having this exact conversation with every single clients today because we think it makes sense to get ahead of the curve here.
Well, a very important point was just noted, and I think it needs to be said. Remember, Jeff, that's to you.
Is this from a Team Jeffer?
Doesn't sound like it.
Okay.
Remember, Jeff, it sounds like a Team Aaron for sure.
Uh-huh.
It will be your daughters that will be picking your nursing home and not your granddaughters or sons.
That's certainly a
valid point.
Well, I guess that's true because it's just a statement. You know? If I'm incapable of doing that, I would have to do that. But I don't ever see myself being in that.
We'll move you into the guest house.
Down in the woods?
Exactly.
Sorry, I need to be near the club, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, I think we should take our first break of the second hour.
Yeah, because he's panting over there. He wants us to do that. So no problem. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 931-5877, which is KTRS, or 84126 from the text line. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
We'll be right back.
Reason number 6 why RVs are so popular. They're pet-friendly. Your fuzzy family member can go with you. Like Reverend Bentley and Mr. Chips, his small terrier. Each summer, he'd hitch up his aristocrat trailer and head to the dry heat of the Southwest, eventually settling in Deming, New Mexico. He became friends with the local sheriff, likely because arriving late one night, he stopped at a grassy patch along the road, only to find out the next morning that it was a local cemetery. After moving to the land of the living, Bentley and Mr. Chips would go to town in search of local gatherings, especially church picnics, and quickly became well known. A man, a dog, an RV. Adventures begin at Byerly, the center of the RV world.
For the rest of your life, Byerly Trailer. For the rest of your life, Byerly Trailer. Rediscover your family, show them you care. For the rest of your life, you gotta be there.
Check us out at ByerlyRV.com, Eureka, Missouri.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hi, I'm Travis with Fence and Deck Depot. We are one of the largest locally owned installers of quality fences and decks in the greater St. Louis area for over 20 years. Our project experts offer free consultations. Our office team will communicate with you through every step of the process. And our first-class craftsmen will install a quality project that you'll love and be proud to display. With an A+ rating from the BBB, Fence and Deck Depot strives to exceed customer expectations in both Missouri and Illinois. Call Fence and Deck Depot at 636-441-7374, online at FenceDepotCo.com.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back to Straight Talk on Retirement. It's 10:29 here on the Big 550 KTRS. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Willing, waiting, and wanting to answer your questions at 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Honey, I know that you've got a text there. It's
a great long one.
It's a long one. It's a great one.
It fits with our last segment.
Yes, it does. It's kind of it's almost a storyboard. So I think we want to take this text question and try to
parse it out a little bit.
Dissect it. Let's go.
Okay.
We fortunately have about 31 minutes left, so go.
I am a 62-year-old executive at a company going public. Congratulations.
Yes.
I have $20 million in stock, $40 million in NSOs, which are non-qualified stock options that expire in 6 years. $250,000 of annual income. My real estate holdings total $1.5 million, and I have a $300,000 mortgage. He also has $500,000 in IRAs and has already created a trust for his children. How kind. Of $1.2 million.
Great.
Now, his expenses run about $15,000 a month. I don't know if that's going to be important to our upcoming conversation.
Not really.
What is the best way to shelter as much as I can to pass it on to my kids and grandkids? Also, his retirement date is not expected for at least 10 more years. So he's got time to accumulate more.
Okay, that's fine. So there are a bunch of things here.
We got stock options.
So I'm gonna sort of do a couple of things that I'm thinking, and then you're gonna jump in and do things you're thinking.
Okay.
Since this is we're kind
tag
of
team here.
We're spontaneous. I would love this having two brains, and especially yours because yours is your mom's and much bigger than mine.
Why, thank you.
So the first thing is appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're looking at somebody that's in a very exciting situation.
Yes. Congratulations again.
And they're estimating that this company, when it does go public, is going to be worth a lot of money. Obviously, they're also, because of their holdings, they actually have almost an instant estate tax planning problem because between husband and wife, assuming this person's married, you've got
$11 million.
$11.5 million. So 23 million can be moved across, but they have 60 million. So
potentially, well, they have like more than 60 million if we include the real estate and the IRAs. So there's a big chunk that isn't the estate tax, like 50%.
Yes, on the amount that's in excess of that amount.
Right.
So the size of this example is, I want to call it
very large.
It's large, but it's also not common. You know, if we take a zero off of the back of these, it's really a little bit. You know, we're talking about somebody that's wealthy, but it's
like 2 million, right? So we were talking 6 million versus 60 million.
Just to kind of put it into perspective.
Sure.
So the first thing is, I would be thinking for this client about capital appreciation long term.
Sure.
He or she is going to continue to work for this company. Hopefully, it becomes more valuable, more profitable over time. So I would be thinking, how can I begin to pass the appreciation on to the people that will eventually inherit this money, and maybe be in a position where they can enjoy this today. So the first thing I would consider is I would be looking at beginning a significant gifting program. Which
you could do 15 million per human being.
15,000.
15 million.
and if this person is married, it could be up to 30,000. So, you know, if you have grandchildren, etc., children, you can start sending this money out.
Especially since you'll be exercising stock options.
Right.
In 6 years.
Yeah. Number two is in terms of the real estate. Doesn't sound like he has a lot.
1.5 million.
But again, we don't know if this real estate is residence personal or if it happens to have any
rental or commercial.
Right. And if that's the case, what I would certainly consider is maybe a family limited partnership, which is a vehicle so that he could retain control as the general partner, but then to begin to gift the value of this company and maybe income, especially if it's real estate income,
rental income,
right, depreciation, etc., to other family members. That would be second.
So that one that reduces your taxes because, for example, if you're collecting $20,000 a year in rent,
right,
you aren't going to bear the brunt of the full $20,000 of income. You can pass that on to either children or grandchildren by making them limited partners. They get a portion of it. So, if they have 1%, then they're going to get a couple $100 off of that.
Right, and at the same time, you could gift off significant portions of this, even more, but still be the general partner and take control.
Right, and that only works as
you're
if
creating
this is
two classes.
Right, and that only works as if this is income-producing property versus if your house is worth $1.5 million, then there's nothing to do there.
And
but that also would be the house would be the real estate would be something I would recommend leaving to the children because that's going to get a step up in basis. We just talked about taxation and how those things work, so they'll get a step up in basis as to the fair market value of the house at the date of your death. If they decide to sell it, they only have to pay taxes on the difference between that, not what you originally paid for it or any improvements.
Well, and honey, also we have to remember that the stock that he owns will step up to fair market value. So, the real estate stepping up is still a nice thing. What I'm thinking more is because of this person's income and because of the value of the securities that he has. Mm-hmm. He and or his spouse, if he has one, they're probably enablers.
Sure.
Which means that maybe they're going to help and want to help their grandchildren at this point, if they have any, on school. In terms of cash flows for schools, better house, better food, better, etc. They're going to enable. So by having that partnership share a portion of those owned by those grandkids. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to the example I gave. We talked about a couple of weeks ago, which were at the end of the day, my question to the client was, well, can your grandson pick up a shovel? And if the answer is yes, well, giving them a share will permit them to pick up income at a lower income tax bracket, and therefore, not only is the income going to be taxed lower, but also they're going to be participating in the appreciation of that property today.
But I mean, I would assume that it's not income producing because most people don't have that. That would be my assumption.
Well,
the value of the house, the $1.5 million is probably the value of the house.
Right.
But I would also say, if we go back to what you just mentioned, helping with school, well, grandma and grandpa can directly pay universities, parochial schools, tuition, and it's not included on the parents or the grandchild's income in any way. So that might be and also it's not considered a gift. So making those payments for your children on behalf of your grandchildren or for your grandchildren when they get to college, that might be a way to start passing assets on. You've helped, and you might think of it as just an expense, but imagine the freedom. I can imagine it because my parents were generous enough to pay for my college education, which is
I like your dad.
I like him too sometimes, as long as you're not teaching me algebra. I was able to leave college and do whatever I wanted. I didn't have to have a certain salary in order to make loan payments. So it's very freeing. And it gives you the opportunity to find what you want to do and who you want to become without being saddled with debt from the very first day that you graduate.
Sure. And in respect to, we're not going to hit everything today, but in respect to these stock options, which he has to execute, as he begins to execute, or she, I don't know if it's he or she. I'm sorry.
They didn't
I apologize for male chauvinism here because it could easily be
a 62-year-old woman. Yes,
that's right. In this particular case, what we're talking about is there's going to be taxation on
the $40 million.
That's right, on these options, assuming that he's hopeful that he's going to be able to start executing these things.
Right.
Which is fine. So how can we deal with the income taxation on that? Well, we know the guy's probably or woman is making maximum contributions to their retirement accounts. That would be one thing.
Sure.
But the other thing they would probably want to consider is a significant charitable giving program.
And, there are a lot of different ways to do this, one of which would be something called a donor-advised fund.
Right, which is something that I personally have gotten involved with. And again, what we're talking about is instead of, as most folks do today, where they're gifting directly to that charitable organization and it's basically a one-off thing, what we're talking about is having a fund. Okay, it isn't something you're buying, but it's actually a depository to accept this. A reservoir, if you want to, of where you're creating a reservoir of money that you're getting charitable deductions for on the front end, but you get to control who, when, and how the faucet is turned on.
Right. So using an example, if there are, $100,000 of stock options to exercise in a year, if you say, well, I'm going to take half of that and put it into my donor-advised fund, well, you get to take the $50,000 deduction the year that you contribute to the fund. However, it is not contingent on you gifting the money out to qualified 501c3 charities in that year as well. So you could allow those funds to accumulate and distribute them over time. You could say, I'm waiting for my church to have another capital campaign, and then I'll make a big donation then. But you get to take the deduction when you make the because it's no longer in your estate. You cannot recapture the money once you put it into the donor-advised fund.
Very important. It's an irrevocable gift.
Right. So you've put it in. Now, you also have investment. Many places offer investment options where you can try and grow the money that you've already contributed. You have investment control, and you also have control as to when those funds are distributed. You don't get another deduction or anything like that afterwards, but it does give you the opportunity, potentially in higher income earning years like this texter will have when he's exercising stock options, to make larger deductions in those years without having to pick hundreds of charities or give to a church when you're not necessarily prepared.
So let's do a hypothetical example on top of this. Let's just say that this texter happens to have a child today.
Sounds like they do.
Right. And that child maybe is a medical school student.
Okay.
And that medical school student is someone that has been obviously a very good student, and they're on their way to becoming a physician. And you might consider the possibility that that medical school student will eventually want to create their own lab.
Right, they want to do some research.
Right, they want to do research, which is uncommon for many physicians to do because you're seeing them all, all the stuff on TV, and also stuff you don't see. But taking some of this money and using it to pre-fund that lab that could be 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years in the future, and having that money grow in there so that it can then be spit out to that university, which is sponsoring that child, etc., could be a long-term goal. And
right, because when you give to the educational institution, that's considered a 501c3, so you're making the donation through your donor-advised fund, but you know that maybe one of your children or grandchildren is actually going to be able to reap the benefits of that.
Yeah, or let's even do one that's a little bit more realistic, or you want to say
more widespread, if you will.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I belong to a religious organization, a church. We belong to Temple, but it's a church. And I have been a contributor to that church for dues and other things. And let's say, as an example, I'm contributing $3,000 a year.
Okay.
Well, if I make, in this particular case, as a way to reduce the effect of taxes, I might say I'm going to contribute $30,000
to the donor advised fund,
which
and
is then
10 years of
doling it out at $3,000 a year. So they're pre-funding
their charitable, what you were already doing charitably. This is like when we talk about sending your charitable contributions directly from your IRA because there's no taxation there on those distributions. This is basically keeping in sync with your family math or what you've already planned to do. We're just slightly changing the mechanism in which you do it.
Right. The flow of the river is going to continue. It's just a matter of maybe
damming it in some places and such.
Exactly. So I think that's a pretty good base discussion. I'm sure that
there's a lot of other factors that are going to go into this. This would definitely be a conversation you would want to have with your, not only with your financial advisor, your planner, but also it sounds like with the size of this estate, you'll end up having your attorney involved in this as well. And you already have one since you have an irrevocable trust, so there's going to be a lot of components to this. You probably have an account, a tax advisor too.
No question. And I think the fun for us here is that we really see ourselves as that coach, which is helping to assemble the team or getting the team on an agenda,
right?
A game plan, if you would, and helping our clients vet these choices
Also, dream a little. What are our goals here? What would you like to see happen?
I mean, we're already on the payroll, so we're not charging an hourly fee to do that.
We're the least expensive option.
Right. And so, I love to dream with our clients, create that game plan, get them more prepared so that when they go to see their other professional advisors, like their attorney, like their accountant, that we don't have to start at the beginning. You can really look at somebody and say, this is what I want, and this is why I think that I want it, and this is how I understand things work. Fill in the holes, because the more holes that we can fill in their thought process, again, I always think the better decisions that you make.
Sure.
So that's a good one.
We had one comment. I'm confused. I thought when paying tuition for a grandchild from a trust, you could consider it a gift. Well, you can consider it a gift, absolutely, but the IRS does not consider it a gift in terms of...
Because it's for education.
Because it's for educational purposes. Also, you'll be paying it directly to the institution. You don't pay it to the child or the grandchild, and then they pay. Your child goes to Mizzou, you're paying tuition directly to Mizzou. That's not included in the $15,000 per year gift.
Right. It's not subject to the gift tax return.
Right.
And the other part of that
It is a gift, though, a very kind one.
Yes, certainly it is. It's family love. So, and I think what also is important about this is that if you do give this money handed to a human, what happens is it changes its nature a little bit here.
Sure.
And also what would happen is that if that child is eligible for
FAFSA or any scholarships that are need or merit-based, right? That's why
just shot him in the foot.
Keeping the grandparents' income isn't calculated into any of those equations. The parents' income is. So putting funds in a child's name, putting funds in a parent's name for a grandchild is not the best option, because like when we talk with our clients often, it's about you want to be the last funding source, not the first. So if there are other options available, you might want your child or grandchild to exercise those first, and then grandma and grandpa come in as the backstop to say, well, we'll make up the difference, or we'll help out with what comes next when you don't have financial options available to you.
Yes, and you're not the ones that are putting your names on the FAFSA forms. That's
key.
That's and really, this also works in the same way when it comes to creating, if you wanted to, a 529 educational account for a child. I mean, you don't want it to be in their name. You don't, in terms of the ownership, you don't want the ownership to be in the parent's name.
Right.
You want to retain that ownership of yourself, so you can actually have the control.
Right. I think we should take our last break of our second hour.
Wonderful. And we'll be back then to answer your questions and texts, which we've just really done almost the whole day, which is fabulous.
We love it.
931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Just 15 minutes west of I-270 on I-44, you'll find Eureka, Missouri, the home of Byerly RV, as well as a myriad of interesting shops, campgrounds, and restaurants, not to mention Six Flags. Eureka is the gateway to the Ozarks and points west, and Byerly RV is there to outfit you for great vacation adventures with motorhomes, travel trailers, and tent trailers, and the largest RV parts store in 200 miles. Come see us, but allow time to explore Old Town Eureka. We found it. Just a beautiful 15-minute ride from I-270 west on I-44. Byerly RV.
For the rest of your life. Byerly Trailer. For the rest of your life. Byerly Trailer. Rediscover your family. Show them you care. For the rest of your life. You gotta be there. For the rest of your life.
I'll be there for you. And on May 13th, we hope you'll be there too. It's Friends Night at the ballpark. Pivot down to Busch Stadium on Friday, May 13th, when the Cardinals host the Giants. With the purchase of a special theme ticket, fans will take home their own Central Perk mug. Come early for a pregame concert of 90s hits from Proud Larry. That's Friday, May 13th, Friends Night at the ballpark. For tickets or more details, visit cardinals.com/theme.
2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the memorable 1982 World Championship team. The Cardinals will be celebrating this remarkable championship team all season long. On Friday, May 13th, the Cardinals host the San Francisco Giants. And that night, 25,000 fans, ages 16 and older, take home a 1982 inspired performance hat, courtesy of Quick Trip. That's Friday, May 13th. Get your tickets at Cardinals.com.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back here on the Big 550 KTRS. Talk Radio St. Louis. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
We've got about 8.5 minutes left of the show. Our phone lines are open. We love to hear from you. 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. While we're waiting, we're putting off a text that we have sitting here. We do want to do our healthcare segment of the week, making smart choices about your healthcare, sponsored by
Aetna and Anthem of Missouri.
Thank you very much for sponsoring the show.
Yeah, they're great.
They're awesome.
Jill called. She didn't call for me, though. She called to talk to Frank.
Of course she would. Exactly. Who is our new health insurance coach.
That's right.
The Medicare man.
That's right.
As I call him.
So Jill called, and she only had her Medicare Part A and B. She didn't have a supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan to go with it.
She got a slice of that pizza. Somebody took a slice of the pizza. They got to fill it in.
Right. So she hasn't. She said, she's very healthy. She doesn't use the doctor. She doesn't have any medication.
She's in denial.
She's already paying $170 a month for a Medicare Part B. So why should she have to add to her coverage if she's already got A and B? Shouldn't that be enough?
She doesn't want to go bankrupt.
Well, because Medicare Part A and B make up 80% of your medical expenses. So really what that means is you have an 80-20 insurance policy, but unlike your current health insurance that has a maximum out of pocket regardless of what your breakdown is in terms of what you are required to pay towards that, you have top-end protection, which means once you hit that maximum out of pocket during the year, the insurance company comes in to pick up the balance of whatever is covered under the policy that you need services for. Medicare doesn't have a maximum out of pocket if you only have Part A and B benefits. There is no top-end protection. So basically what that means is Jill is in great health, but great health is not the only reason that you might utilize health insurance. What happens if Jill happened to be, would never wish this upon someone, but what if you were in a car accident, you step off the curb, you get hit by a bus, like you're in the hospital. Now Jill owes 20% of whatever the hospital charges because Medicare only covers 80%.
And we're not even talking about drugs. God forbid she would actually
or if she needed, drugs. Right, if she eventually needed a prescription medication. Now, the supplements, so the lettered policies, Medigap policies, and Medicare Advantage plans, you have to enroll within a certain time and we'll get there. But there are no penalties for not having taken it. You don't owe anything extra down the line if you don't take a supplement or you don't take a Medicare Advantage plan. That's the penalty is you owing more money than you necessarily should. But there is a penalty for prescription drug coverage, which means if you do not elect prescription drug coverage within your either initial election period window or your special election period.
Part D, right?
That's right. Part D for drugs. That's the prescription drug coverage. There is a 1% annual penalty for every, 1% penalty for every month that you did not take the coverage that you should have. Right. And so that means that right now Jill's in great health, and that's very good to hear. But what happens if down the line she's prescribed not a generic, which some people might say, well, I could pay for that out of pocket anyways, I don't care. Well, what if you end up on a specialty medication, or you end up on a name brand medication and you can't take the generic? Now you're going to be paying thousands of dollars out of pocket with no protection, and if you add prescription drug coverage, well, then you'll get the protection, but one, you have to wait for an enrollment period, which would be an annual enrollment, or two, now you're going to be paying more for something that you could have been paying less for if you had enrolled. So let's kind of talk a little bit about, we kind of covered the importance of having a supplement because it's going to give you that annual top-end protection. The great thing about the supplements or the Medicare Advantage plans is as long as you are within your initial election period window like Jill is, you're able to enroll, and whatever month you enroll, you get coverage the first of the next month. There are no waiting periods. We talked briefly last week about enrolling in Medicare Part B during your initial election period, and depending upon what month you enroll, you may have a gap or you may have to wait additional months for it to actually begin. The supplements and Medicare Advantage plans are more flexible in that, for example, let's say Jill just turned 65 this month. If she enrolls today, so she sends in her application on April 30th, tomorrow she will have coverage. If she sends the application in tomorrow, she'll have coverage June 1st. So there's very little waiting in terms of getting onto a policy as long as you're doing it within your window of time.
That's cool. But at the end of the day, that's not really what the issue is. I mean,
what's the issue?
Well, I'm just saying is that if she could enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, a zero premium one,
right?
Why wouldn't you take an umbrella with you if there's a possibility it could rain?
And that really does get to the heart of the matter, which is for a lot of people, there are so many options out there. The television commercials are really confusing. For example, if you watch certain commercials, some companies offer both a supplement, which means you have low out-of-pocket expenses, but you have a monthly premium. But they also offer the Medicare Advantage plan, which means that you have low to no monthly premium, but you have out-of-pocket expenses to cover. Those things can be confusing. It's important to sit down with someone that can give you all of the options. And for someone like Jill, who's in good health, on no medications, taking A and B is the start. It's the basis for everyone's Medicare coverage. It's what comes from the government. Those benefits can't be changed. But if you're someone that's, I don't want to spend any more than I'm already spending, well, using a Medicare Advantage plan might be an excellent option for you because, one, the networks are very large. So whichever doctors you happen to see for maintenance, you've got your primary care doctor, maybe you've got an eye doctor that you particularly like, you can still capture them in the network. You have protection in case something unexpected happens or you're diagnosed with something, which is also generally unexpected. If a medication's added, you're going to have the benefits already built into your Medicare Advantage plan. But in addition to that, most of these plans have a zero premium associated with them. They also include other benefits that you don't have to pay for. For example, Aetna offers $2,000 a year of dental at no cost. So that's literally $2,000 for you to use. They offer you the Silver Sneakers. That's that free gym membership. They offer you hearing benefits. So you need hearing aids. They offer $2,500 a year for hearing aids. They offer eye care, which means you get some money towards glasses. You get an annual eye exam at no extra charge to you. So not only are you kind of shooting yourself in the foot by creating a gap in coverage without adding some sort of plan to couple with your Medicare coverage, but you're missing out on a lot of free benefits that most people don't associate with medical expenses, but we can group them in and bring down your overall expenses every month just by adding this policy, and they're changeable every year during your annual election period. You can change Medicare Advantage plans without any medical underwriting, so there really is no reason not to take advantage of that. You don't want to wait or miss out, so you want to do that during your enrollment period.
Absolutely, honey, and, I'm just thinking as you were talking about this, that Jill may actually be doing this stuff. She may already belong to a gym. She may already be doing these things. So
now get it for free.
Well, save that money, put it back in your pocket.
That's exactly right.
It's all about coaching session, right? Give us a call, 314-863-0008, or send us an email, Aaron at jblfinancial.com.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Be listening next week at 9 for more Straight Talk on Retirement with your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus, on the Big 550 KTRS.